Okay, so I believe everyone can see my slides. So I'm
Yes.
not going to go through all the slides because I've got about 50 slides, and I think this is not about me reading off the slides, but I just wanted to share with you a couple of important points what we have heard just now, right? And then we will take it from there. So when we talk about storing in the cloud, right? I think we heard from the presenter before me that it's very important when you put the data in the cloud, you know what you're putting in the cloud. Today, when you talk to people, you tell them where you put the data, they say cloud. Then you ask them where is the cloud, they point to the sky. Then you wonder where is the sky, and they have no idea what they have put in the cloud. So I think our topic predominantly it's on data, and I think Mariani has explained that very well. I'm just going to go straight that when you talk about data, we are talking about personal data, right? So to me, the acronym is Popcorn Extra because we are concerned when you put personal data in the cloud. How do you know that data is secure? How do you know nobody is looking at it, no one is taking it, misusing it, compromising it in any way or form? Whether it's Singapore PDPA or GDPR or Indonesia privacy law, I think the fundamentals are the same, right? We are talking about the first P is the data, personal data. Because if it's business data, we are not concerned for the moment. I'm not saying it's not important, but our topic is on privacy, right? Then we talk about O, is the organization that is collecting, using, disclosing it. Because if it's individual, again, we are not concerned, right? Then we go to the next P. What is the purpose? Is it personal or business? Very important to establish that because B2B is fine. Personal is again individual. But we need to be very careful. Why is that organization collecting the data, how they are using the data, how they are disclosing the data, and how they are storing? That's where we come to the cloud storage, right? Then the next one is C. Was that consent given? Because in GDPR, you need explicit consent. There is no such thing as implied consent. In Singapore, Indonesia, there is certain variations to it. So we need to be very careful. Was the organization obtaining the consent? Were they open? Do they have a privacy policy? Right? Do they inform the individuals of what they're using the data for? Then we come to EX. EX is what? Exception. Now, in every law, there are always exceptions. Like now, if it's national security or I got a heart attack, please don't ask for my consent, Mr. Vayu. You call the ambulance straight away. Because if you're going to ask for my consent, by the time you ask, I'll be dead. It's too late, right? And then we talk about how is the data transferred or disclosed. Now, Mariani talk about cloud. So in the cloud, it's in the cloud. Where in the cloud, you need to know because the jurisdiction comes into play. And if you're
Sambil
moving
makan,
data,
Bu.
I can continue. I thought
Yes,
someone,
yes,
okay.
yes, please.
If you move the data from one jurisdiction and another, you got to get consent. You can't just move data like that, especially that of EU citizens, right? I think Mariani talked about GDPR, which is the gold standard of privacy. Then we talk about retention. How long do you keep the data? Now, if you use a cloud service provider, of course, you keep the data there. How long you keep it? Is there a valid business or legal reason to do so? Or you suka-suka kita simpan? Cannot. It's not Chinese New Year. No, you have to do spring cleaning every now and then. Then the data that you keep, is it accurate? Very important, right? Because you are making business decisions on it. Last but not least, it says S, secured. How have you secured the data? So most of the clients I talk to, they say, yeah, we rely on Amazon, on Dropbox, on Google Drive. They have the best security in the world. It cannot be hacked. I mean, I just laugh. I think Mariani can tell you better than me. Everything is hackable. It's just when and how. and who is going to do it. So please don't, ladies and gentlemen, live in the paradise world where you think you cannot be hacked. It's just a matter of time, right? And you cannot rely totally on the cloud service provider, as the moderator also mentioned. You have to take ownership of the data. The ultimate accountability rests with the organization. You cannot say, oh, I use AWS, okay, I hands up, AWS handle. Doesn't work that way, right? So you need to be very, very careful. So I'll go on to the next two slides. So the next two slides is the 9 steps to handling personal data. Again, you all can read it. It's very self-explanatory. You can see the middle part here. Collect, use, disclose, and store. Extremely important. What are you collecting? What are you using it for? How are you disclosing it? And where are you storing? Now, if you're going to store in the cloud, be very mindful, especially your contract. Because when you terminate the service or cease the service, what are the steps that you have taken to ensure the cloud service provider does not still have your data, right? And what data you're putting there in the cloud in the first place? And like what Mariani mentioned, what are the access controls? What are the user privileges that you're giving people? Who can access it? How are the things being moving in the cloud? You need to know all those sort of things. You need to do a vendor audit as well, right? The next slide tells you the 10 steps to security of personal and business data. Again, very self-explanatory, right? We talked about access limitation, non-disclosure agreement, right? And staff training, right? Which is very, very important because today half of the people don't even know where the data is. That's why the concept of CIA is there, right? Not Central Intelligence Unit, but confidentiality, integrity, accessibility. Okay. So these are the fundamental questions adding to what Mariani had mentioned that we should ask if we are going to use a cloud service provider, right? Who are we outsourcing organization with which we contract with and where are they located? Believe you me, some of them don't even know where is the cloud. They tell me it's in the cloud. Where the cloud? Tatao. That's the worst thing you can tell anybody, right? Especially the regulator when there's a breach. The next question, precisely what data are we sending to and receiving? What are you putting in the cloud? Are you putting the NRIC or the passport number or the what they call genetic information of the individual in the cloud? Right? What is it? And have you told your customers, is the information personal? And have we given notice to the customer? Sometimes we don't even tell the customer. We just put the data up there. The customer also don't know, which is wrong. Right? The next question, what are the exposures if the data is improperly accessed, used, or maintained? This is very, 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 very important because the data in the cloud is vulnerable. That's why you have to make sure you do penetration testing, vulnerability testing to close the gaps, right? Then what data protection clauses do we have in the contract? Very important to have your legal people review it. Don't just take nowadays, a lot of people use chat GDP, type, get, tampal, say contract done. I'm not saying it's no good, but when you talk about a provider, please talk to your legal team. What evidence do you have that the outsourcing provider or your cloud provider is protecting your data? And the what you call the team that maintains it, executes it, and does development work, all are different. And they don't share data with their clients about your company, right? What processes are there in place to monitor what they are doing? So have you even done an audit or do you have the right to audit clause? Right? And then did that cloud service provider then outsource again to another outsource provider? There are many people who do that. So who is the ultimate person, right? The next question, does the organization outsource the process to another organization, which I told you before, right? Now you put an example, Alibaba. Now, again, I'm not saying Alibaba is no good, don't get me wrong, but I think most people agree when you put data using Alibaba Cloud, a lot of European and US companies, they're very skeptical. They will question, they will get worried, right? Because of the different jurisdictions and the level of security that they have, right? So we need to select the reputable organization. We need to select the country where there are good legal and jurisdiction, where you can take them to task. You need to select the organization that have got the good security protocols, right? You need to make sure that their staff are competent and not a fly by night. Nowadays, everybody you ask where are you working? I'm working from the beach, from the bench, from the park. You don't know where they're working from, right? Then how is their data then secured? And they make sure other people are not looking over their laptop and seeing. Then did you audit that organization? And data breaches, how are you handling it? I think Mariani talked about it. Incident response, which is the biggest problem today. Organizations, when they get hacked, they don't even know they are hacked until the media comes out. They say, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, you're hacked. Then they all wake up and then they run around like headless chickens. Then what procedures do we have in place that the cloud person tell us, right? Last but not least, did we review our processes and procedures? So I had one client, they had a data breach and they didn't even know Pawayu until 2 weeks later. 200 records of Singaporeans, NRIC was compromised. Full NRIC. And they didn't even know till 2 weeks later. Okay. So the last few slides, then I'll stop. A cloud without a clear and strong data protection is not the sort of cloud we need. I think it's a very interesting code, right? For us to understand a cloud without a clear and strong data protection is not the sort that we need. Exactly what Mariani spoke about. If you don't have the strong data protection policies, procedures, you are game, set, and match. Okay. The brave new world of cloud computing offers many benefits, provided that privacy and security are recognized and effectively minimized. Extremely important, you have to do a risk assessment, a DPIA. You cannot not do and say, I don't know, I leave it to the other person. Because there is risk when you put in the cloud, you just got to manage it and minimize it. Okay. So that's where I want to stop. The rest of the slides you all can read. It's self-explanatory, right? I have given you more than enough information. So I think now, yeah, I'll pass back to Pawayu. So if there are any questions we can take, I think it's more interesting to share experiences. So thank you.